What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show here with an early Saturday game. The Blazers pull off a miracle comeback. After trailing by 23 points, they come back to beat the New York Knicks 11 to 12. I can't talk. 112 to 103. This was something, Eric. The Knicks come into Portland and choke a 23-point lead. Josh Hart makes his Blazers debut and plays extremely well. Anfernee Simons has a good game. The first game after the trade deadline was entertaining to watch for sure. This team was fun. This team was energetic. This team clamped down defensively in the fourth quarter and got this win behind playing some really good fourth quarter defense. I believe the Knicks were like 3 for 18 in the fourth quarter. So, it doesn't help the tank race, but I mean, if you want a play-in spot, I don't know how many people are still out there. The Blazers are currently in a play-in spot. They are currently back in 10th. The Pelicans are playing the Spurs right now. If the Pelicans win, they'll move back into 10th. If they lose, the Blazers will be firmly in 10th. So we'll keep you updated with that game. They're playing the Spurs. So as Blazer fans, we're rooting for the Spurs, rooting against the Pelicans. We'll keep you updated with that score. Anyway, Eric, this game was something. What'd you think about it, man?
Yeah, it was fun to see Hart out there. You can see how he immediately had an impact on our defense. And offensively, he's seemingly just as skilled as Norman is at taking the ball to the basket. Now, he's not as good of a three-point shooter, but he shot okay tonight. But you saw him with several and ones just by getting to the rim, and I like the fact that he was used as kind of a secondary ball handler tonight. I think it's not too early to say he is I can almost say that he's the perfect complement to a Dame Ant backcourt. That trio will be very good moving forward. Now, we better not let him go for cap space this summer. That would be an all-time bad mistake, in my opinion. And so hopefully we're going to use our trade exceptions to get better this summer, maybe a little bit of cap space, but not at the expense of losing a guy like Josh Hart, because you can see how important he would be to a good team.
Yeah, I mean, this is the type of role player that the Blazers have tried to go out there and get, with a Rocco, with a Norm, but those guys just they didn't bring enough intensity defensively. So that's why I was on board with trading them now. I mean, obviously, we weren't happy with what those guys got back, but I'm happy to maybe fill Norman's role with Josh Hart. Now, I think next year he comes off the bench as the third guard, but as a 3, I think he can play next to Dame and CJ. That dude is very competitive. And after the first 2 minutes, I fell in love with him as a Blazer. You know what I mean? And that happens with Blazer fans, right? We get attached to players pretty quick here in Portland, but there's something about his attitude he brings to the court that this team has lacked for a while. And we're not going to be talking about a lack of effort, I don't think, again this season. With Josh Hart on the team, Justice Winslow out there, it plays pretty hard. Simons is a scorer, kind of a fancy player in terms of just being a guy that gets buckets and isn't necessarily the best defender, but he competes. We got a bunch of competitors out there right now, which makes this team a lot more fun to watch, because you're going into games like this not expecting to win, but maybe even rooting against a win, because I would love to get a top 3 pick for this Blazers team. But then when these guys come out and they play super hard and the crowd is into it because they can tell these guys are playing hard, it just makes the game enjoyable without the pressure of okay, we need to win this game. So it's actually easy to kind of just sit back, relax, and enjoy some Blazer basketball now, compared to earlier in the season when it was we aren't playing hard enough, we're doing all this stupid stuff, we're losing games we should win, this isn't, the competitive team we thought it was going to be. It's just a completely different mindset. And after the trade deadline, I was thinking we're not going to be able to talk about trades, and we're probably just going to lose a bunch of games. What are we going to talk about? But as long as this team plays hard, there's going to be fun plays to talk about. There's going to be fun moments to talk about. And there's going to be wins like this to talk about because the Blazers down the stretch have one of the easier schedules in the league. How that ends up in the big picture of things, I don't know. But from a game-to-game basis, it's easy to enjoy this team right now.
Yeah. At some point, if you're worried about that, maybe you have to start limiting some of the veterans' minutes,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we might still win, but, guys like Nurkic and Winslow and Hart, those three in particular, you might have to just be like, okay, we know what we have in you guys. We're not going to make the playoffs, so we'll play you a little bit, but, we know what we have. We're not going to waste you guys on this season. We're going to try to develop some of the young guys. I'm sure they will actually they'll be fine with that. I mean, every player wants to play, but they understand that the situation they came into is a little different than if they got traded to a contender or something like that. So hopefully Billups also recognizes that, because I could see him falling in love with Hart and Winslow. I think he already has, and playing those guys 35 minutes a game and kind of trying to win a lot of games. And as fun as that would be to see this group of guys go on a playoff run or something, I hope that the organization as a whole realizes that that's probably not what's best. So if it happens, it happens, but don't play your veteran players to make it happen. Make it because of Ant and Trendon Watford and Greg Brown dominating the Knicks in the fourth quarter or something, or Keldon Blevins, not Josh Hart and Justice Winslow.
Yeah. We'll talk about individual players once we get to player cards. If this is your first time tuning into a post-game show, maybe you found us through the trade deadline stream that we did a couple of days ago. Thank you to everybody for the support on that stream. We talk about kind of themes from the game, then we go through team stats, individual players, and then around the league. No more trade talk. We also do a Twitter space, so you can call into the post-game show. Trade talk is obviously not going to be a thing until the offseason. And we have no idea which direction this team is going to go in the offseason or what their plans are. So obviously that's not going to be a conversation for a while.
I haven't run this by you yet, Tori, but I have some things I want to talk about the trade deadline.
Okay.
So I was thinking, for those that are interested in that kind of stuff, we will stream Monday on our second channel, Blazers Uprise Live. Yep. Just kind of not necessarily insight, but kind of just figuring out exactly what happened in terms of the Blazers front office and why they made some of these moves and stuff like that. Just kind of a recap of everything that happened, including some things that we know now that we didn't necessarily know at the time, and just kind of go through it and figure out why this team is doing what they're doing.
Yep. Thank you to Hyperprime for a $5 dono. Says the Blazers really just beat two of the biggest franchises in the NBA this past, I assume you mean this past week. Yeah, the thing is, though, Lakers and Knicks aren't playoff teams, let's be honest. The Blazers playing at home against non-playoff teams. Both teams had high expectations going into this season and have fallen flat on their face. The Knicks look terrible. The Knicks look like last season was a fluke. Thank you, Hyperprime, for the $5 dono. Shout out.
Just about that, the famous teams or whatever, we have a stupid article that comes out in the middle of the game about how Dame is on the Knicks' radar after this fire sale. And it's like, shut up, Nick. Why would he want to go to the Knicks? If he's trying to win a championship and get out of Portland so he can win, he would never choose the Knicks as that franchise to go to. That's just dumb. So I hate franchises like that think they deserve to get a player like Dame when they've been at more poverty than we've ever been.
Yeah, I agree. I tweeted on the tweet, or I replied to the tweet that I saw, man. It's like, you guys can't even hold a 23-point lead against a Damian Lillard-less Blazers team, which is just a mashup of parts, some of who are playing their first game together. and you guys can't even hold a 23-point second half lead against that team, and Dame wants to go to the Knicks, or Dame would be willing to go to the Knicks, that's comical to me. And then I had a Knicks fan say, we're missing players, look, we're missing RJ Barrett and Derrick Rose, and it's like, look at our team, man. Look at our team. I don't understand that at all, but thank you, Hyperprime, for the $5 dono. Shout out Cascade Do Sell for a $2 dono, says, McLemore has earned a spot on this roster 100%. He deserves a spot on a roster. I feel like they should have tried to trade him for a second-round pick, and maybe they did. Should have tried to trade him for a second-round pick to a contending team, because a contending team could use his shooting ability on their roster to help them win games. He makes more sense on a team trying to win. I don't know if he'll be back next year. I could easily see him going somewhere else, but yeah, I mean, he's been very solid so far this year. Shout out. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so if you've listened to us before, which obviously Cascade has, we've talked about how we need to trade him, or we need to probably move on from him because of his contract situation. Now, if we can re-sign him for the minimum next year, sure. Like, I'm down with that. Like, he's been good enough this year. He's been proven to come in and be a good enough scorer off the bench if we need to, or if we have injuries, he can step up in roles. I'm totally cool with that if we're able to sign him for the minimum. But the problem is we don't have a lot of avenues to sign our own free agents other than to use cap space or the mid-level exception. So if our goal is to try to go after a big fish or whatever in the offseason, or use the trade exceptions and the MLE on the best possible one player we can get, then it makes it really tough for guys like McLemore unless they come back after we do all that on a minimum again, because we won't have necessarily the money to do it. Now, if we strike out on everything and that's the best free agent we can get, I guess we can overpay him a little bit. But I think it would be a mistake to give him like a 2 or 3 year deal at like 5 or 6 million. You know, like, I think he's a minimum type player or just above. And I agree that he deserves to be in the league, and I would like him back on this roster. When I look at the avenues we have of re-signing minimum guys like that, it's just more difficult than it would be if he was making like 10 million this year and we had his bird rights and could just sign him to whatever contract we wanted or whatever.
Yeah, I still don't think he gets more than the minimum, so I don't think necessarily that'll be an issue. But regardless, I mean, the offseason talk, we can hold off on that for a little bit. Shout JM1231, $2 dono, says, go Spurs against New Orleans today. Hope all is well, fellas. Thank you, JM1231. As far as that game goes, I'll give a score update. San Antonio is currently winning 54-51 with 2 minutes left in the second quarter. CJ McCollum in 14 minutes has 12 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 turnovers. He's 4 for 8 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3. His backcourt mate, Devontae Graham's 0 for 6. So CJ's kind of carrying the scoring load there, along with Brandon Ingram, who has 16 points as well. Spurs up 56-53 now. Anyway, we'll keep you posted with that score throughout the stream, and we'll look at the standings a little bit later.
Good question from Max Buckley. How do we feel about Chauncey at this point in the season?
I mean, he's fine for this team. I don't know. Oh, there's the good old ESPN audio jump scare. For this team, he's fine. He struggled earlier this season, but I think it was a product of guys not buying in, and we heard rumors of that, and guys being lazy. And then when you see him with a bunch of like hungry guys, you know, not just young players, but like Justice Winslow's been in the league for a minute, but he's kind of fallen out of favor and almost fell out of the league. So he's kind of hungry. Josh Hart plays hard. You know, he's established in the league, but he's a guy who just plays hard. And all of a sudden, defensively, this team looks very, very solid, at least like an average defensive team, and that's with Anfernee Simons starting. So I think that when Dame gets back, and hopefully Dame is healthier than ever next year, I think this team can be what Chauncey envisioned it being this season defensively, just with some revamped personnel. Offensively, the ball's been moving better, and the ball moved well in this game as well. And that's kind of to be expected when you don't have as many ISO players, and you can't rely on them as much just to score out of isolation. So it's going to be intriguing to see if we get like a couple good veteran players in next season, how this team looks. But I like what Chauncey's done in the past month or so.
Yeah, it's kind of so. He was obviously hired to take a decent roster and make them good, right? And they thought that was going to be his calling card because he preached like all the things they could fix from the previous couple of years that he thought he could get them to do. But when you have a guy like Chauncey who he just has a very good demeanor and a way, like he teaches without being like disrespectful, and he's not like the opposite coach we played against tonight, like a Tom Thibodeau who might do so by like getting in your face and chewing you out and being a jerk about it and being super strict and stuff. So it's almost like he's a player coach, but he's like also like a strict coach too, which is like the best of both worlds. And in my opinion, those kind of coaches always do better with younger teams or teams that they can grow and teach along with the team growing. So we thought maybe he would be good to come in and take this team to the next level, but obviously that was wrong since he didn't have a lot of experience with that. And he wanted to come in and be a coach instead of a general manager because of the teaching aspect of coaching. And I think we're seeing that he is just so much more comfortable teaching younger players and players that aren't kind of stubborn against some of the things he wants them to do. And I'm glad we got rid of some of those guys, and we can still argue about the value we got back. But I think after we got to that point in the season where we kind of gave up on this season, I think he's been like an excellent coach since then. Not very good before that point, but since then he's been really good. And I think moving forward, he's the right man to take this team, whatever iteration of it is, whether we get another star or we have young players and go that route, draft picks. I like Chauncey finding himself as a coach, and I think we'll be fine with him long term.
Yep, and a little bit of a side note, it's going to be interesting to see how Keon Johnson plays under him when Keon Johnson gets back off this ankle injury he has. And this isn't really related to Chauncey, but if Keon Johnson plays well, then it opens up the avenue to potentially flip him without much extra value for Jeremy Grant. Because Keon Johnson, before the draft last year, was labeled as like a late lottery prospect. And that was a deep draft, right? And that's worth a couple of firsts. This is just my most optimistic spin on this trade, and it's the one thing that could make what we got back for Norm and Rocco like a solid return, is if Keon Johnson just plays really well for the rest of the season. The thing is like Josh Hart makes sense as the third guard next year, and that's the role I want him in. So Keon Johnson next year, when Dame's back, doesn't really have a role on this team, even if he plays well, because he's a 6'3" guard with an 8'1" standing reach. He's way too small to play the three. He's basically just a shooting guard. But
I mean, Hart could play a little bit of small forward.
Yeah, but he just doesn't, he doesn't have like an easy role on this team. But if he plays super well, then, I mean, he makes a ton of sense, in my opinion, in Detroit. Right, so then Keon Johnson, maybe our second round pick this year, which should be in the 30s for Jeremy Grant trade, if Keon Johnson plays well enough, is possible because the Pistons want 2 firsts back for Jeremy Grant, and Keon Johnson might be able to play his way into having that sort of value if he looks really good the rest of the season. And every young guy under Chauncey Billups so far this season, Eric, has looked really good. So that's kind of my hope for the rest of the season. And then it becomes a situation where you traded Norman Rocco for Jeremy Grant, and I think people would be I'd be okay with that considering how rough that Norman Rocco trade looked. That was just a side thought that I had. It'll be interesting to see how Keon Johnson looks when he gets here, but as far as his fit, I mean, this is just a side tangent, but as far as his fit in Detroit, he's not really a point guard, too small to play the three, but Cade Cunningham can play point, and he's like 6'8", so it makes it a little bit easier to fit a Keon Johnson into that lineup. So hopefully Keon Johnson is able to kind of be that next guy, young, hungry, athletic guy under Chauncey Billups that plays well for the rest of the season, because he could be a trade piece moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but we could have just gotten a first-round pick instead, and then we wouldn't have had to rely on a guy like Keon Johnson breaking out. But yeah, hopefully he does. But I have a feeling if he does play well, then we wouldn't want to trade him maybe. And even though I agree with you that his path to playing time is kind of blocked, so I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's just something to watch once he gets back. Maybe after the All-Star break, it sounds like he might be
back in 2 weeks.
You what?
It'd be such a bummer if he misses more than like the next 2 weeks, and it takes a while for him to get back to things, because I mean we're gonna start running out of time left in the season to have that happen, like you said. So he needs to get back closer to that, into that 2 weeks versus being out like another month or so.
And people are saying, since when did I want to trade for Jeremy Grant? I still don't really want to trade for Jeremy Grant, but the Blazers do. And if it's for a second-round pick and a piece that doesn't really have a path to playing time on the roster the next couple of years, at that point, I'd probably take it. Especially, if you can get... I mean, I'm still hoping for a top 3 pick for the Blazers. They're going to make that hard, it looks like, with how they're playing. And then, hopefully a lottery pick with the Pelicans pick. At that point, you can maybe flip some assets for somebody very solid. You got a pathway to a competitive team. So that's just an option going forward. I don't think... If Grant embraces his role, it's a little bit better. I mean, obviously, that's just a question mark. So that's just one way, and it doesn't even have to be for Grant. If Keon Johnson plays his way into having value, then it's somebody that you can flip as an asset, and that's just what I'm hoping for with how Chauncey has gotten young players playing under him. Anyway, let's move on from this conversation. Shout out Rip City Brady, $20 dono. Thank you, Brady. He says, Blazers don't know how to tank. This young team is so fun to watch, though. I'm conflicted. Go Spurs. Go Spurs. I mean, that's the one clear thing is we're rooting for the Spurs today. They're up 59-53 at halftime over the Pelicans. So thank you, Brady, for the $20 dono. And shout out Liam Best, $2 Australian dono. Says, hoping for a Fox and Ox masterclass second half. Who is Ox?
I'm
thinking somebody on the Kings, right? Because Fox... De'Aaron Fox, and I don't know who Ox is, but I mean, I'm rooting for the Kings as well. That game's going on. They're playing the Wizards. So go Kings. If the Pelicans lose today and the Kings win, they're close to keeping New Orleans out of a play-in spot and keeping us out of a play-in spot. So that's probably a good thing if the Kings are able to win. They're currently down 65-59 to the Washington Wizards at halftime. We'll keep you posted with that score as well. Anyway, you ready for team stats?
Yes.
Cool. Let me flip this slide over. Boom. Knicks shot terribly. Blazers shot pretty well. And the Blazers...
Sabonis is Ox.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
I've never heard him called Ox.
Neither have I. I assumed it was Sabonis. I've just never heard that nickname for him. Anyway, the Blazers were shooting poorly. I think they were like 8 for 23 from 3 at one point in this game, and then they finished 7 for 15, so almost 50% down the stretch. They finally knocked down some shots. Got back to shooting well from the free throw line. That's what kept the Knicks even up or in this game, is they got to the line 34 times and shot 85%. But three-point shooting, 31% for the Knicks. Field goal shooting, 38% from the Knicks. So a really good defensive game for Portland.
Yeah, very solid all around. Yeah, if you wanted it to be solid.
Yeah.
But yeah, New York couldn't do anything in the paint. Man, I don't think this is like good long term, but if you want some good short-term minutes in a game, having like that Hart Winslow combo in that zone was really good. And those guys were switching off on Randle, and they were both holding their own against him. And they couldn't do anything in the paint. But that's the problem. Like, people who want like a Mitchell Robinson or a Claxton or a Nerlens Noel type, like, those guys can't do anything. They don't really pass well. They don't score in the post. They don't score a lot if they're not getting lobs or offensive rebounds. So those kind of guys can be neutralized for the most part in games. And then you saw how Randle didn't have a great game, so there's not much there's not much they can do to have any paint points in this one, and we sure limited them in that area.
Yeah, 28 paints for New York, 48 for Portland. The assist numbers are impressive. 29 assists on 40 field goals. The ball movement was good today for the Blazers. They had 10 more assists than the Knicks. Got out and ran a little bit too. 16 fast break points for Portland. So across the board, the numbers for Portland looked good today.
I like that's one other thing I really like about Winslow, and Hart's going to be like this too. Both of those guys cut, and they know when to cut, and it led to some nice things. And then also Winslow, when he gets the ball, like around the free throw line or so, he's made some really good passes to either a cutting big like Nurkic tonight, or as kick-out passes. So having that extra passer in the lineup, I thought that was going to be like Nance and Zeller earlier in the season, but we didn't utilize those guys at all in that role. It's nice to see now that we're actually utilizing a slasher in that role. And that's I don't know if I'm going to be talking myself into keeping Winslow or wanting to keep him as a role player on this team, but if we use him the right way, as kind of a slasher passer, he can be a useful player with his he's decent on defense, and I almost trust him more than I've trusted Rocco all season.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is you run into a situation where maybe you have too many non-shooters on the floor, right? And we've had enough shooting. Yeah, we've had enough shooting, so people are like, we're not worried about shooting. We need defensive players and guys who cut. A guy like a Justice Winslow, and we get a Justice Winslow in here and it looks good. This is what this team's been lacking, and they're surprisingly competitive, and people are like, oh yeah, Justice Winslow. Look how good he looks. But next year, if you're playing him in lineups that include a center that can't shoot, and Justice Winslow, I know he hit a 3 today, but he's not a good shooter. He's a guy you can just leave open and double down onto a Dame or onto a Simons when they drive. That's not necessarily the best situation. You want guys that do the things that Justice Winslow does, but then also can knock down threes. That's what you want. And Josh Hart is one of those guys. I know he hasn't been shooting the best from 3 so far this year, 32%, but that's close enough where you have to respect his 3-point shot, and it wasn't like teams were leaving him open today. Teams were up there guarding him. Teams aren't just going to leave Josh Hart, even though he's a 32% 3-point shooter. And today, Josh Hart ends up going let me find it here. He ends up going 3 for 6 from 3. He's a career 34% shooter. That's good enough for everything else that he does. So you want guys like that can at least be a consistent threat from there.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I mean, Winslow can do this too, but Hart especially, if you back off of him, he's so good at getting into the paint when you give him a little bit of a cushion to do so. Winslow's still more of a little bit of a bowling ball where he's not as elusive in those situations, so he still runs into trouble off the dribble, so you can't really do the same things you could with Hart with him. But as long as he doesn't have situations where he's like Derek Jones last year, right?
Yeah.
As long as we're not just keeping him in the corner and he's constantly moving, constantly running around, constantly setting screens for off ball and not necessarily just being used as a spot up shooter, I think you can do some stuff with that. But I do agree that, between Nurkic, Hart, and Winslow, I mean, you're already at 3 of your, whether it's 9 rotation players or whatever it ends up being, some teams 8, some teams 10. You can't have half of them, for example, be non-shooters. So we're already at 3 if we do keep Winslow and Nurk. So I agree that we can't really have too many more. If that's the case, almost everyone else we bring in would have to be a lights out shooter.
Yeah. So that's where I kind of balk at Winslow having a rotation spot on the team next year. As a guy who needs to play if people get hurt, I'm fine with it. But if you're planning on him being in the rotation, it's going to be hard to get enough shooting on the court, right? And people just underrate. Remember when we started Aminu and Harkless, how much people cared about our forwards being able to shoot? And Harkless and Aminu weren't good enough shooters. That was the biggest thing is, we keep losing in the playoffs because Aminu and Harkless can't make threes. They're not enough of a threat from 3. And now it's since we've had threats from three. You know, Norm's been playing the 3 and Roko's been playing the 4, and he shot a career-high 3-point percentage last year, and it didn't work out. Now it's like, oh, well, we just need somebody to play defense and try. You know, so that's the thing. You always underrate what you have and maybe overrate what you don't have. We need to find well-rounded players that play hard consistently, that play defense, that can slash, and that can knock down threes consistently enough to space the floor. Josh Hart is one of those guys. That's why I'm thrilled to have Josh Hart on this team. Justice Winslow, I mean, I wish he could shoot. Because if he could shoot consistently, then he'd be another one of those guys, Eric. But that's the problem, is he's not good enough shooter in my mind to... I mean, if you have like a stretch 5 and 4 shooters on the floor, it's fine. But other than that, it's not... It's going to be tough to make that fit. Anyway, I don't know. What do you want to move on next, or do you want to move on to player cards in a second? I don't have them ready yet, but I can get them ready.
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Stall for like a minute for me.
Yeah.
Let me get these plugged in.
Well, yeah, so people are asking Max, the Lakers fan, why he's in here. He's a very respectful Laker fan, so be nice. But he was asking if we think that Russell Westbrook's contract would have any value this summer once it becomes an expiring, $45 million contract. I think...
you know who would want that contract?
Who?
The Mavs. With Bertans' ugly contract. That would be maybe a Mavs move to make. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, here's the deal. And the Wall contract's still out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if any team out there had a bunch of contracts that they wanted to dump for a Westbrook or whatever, I think they'd probably take a chance with Wall over Westbrook. So I think but you're talking at best, yeah, like Bertans and a bunch of bad contracts that you would have to take on money for multiple years. So I don't know why either Houston or the Lakers would take on bad contracts when they only have to eat their big contract for a year. But yeah, there's 2 of those contracts out there. So that team would want to have Russell Westbrook more than John Wall, which I don't even know at this point if you can justify, because like Westbrook seems like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like, if you have a bad team, he's fine, you know, if he's like the main guy, but you're not going to be good still. But like also, like, why would any team in that situation, like, you know, that fake rumor that Detroit was trading for him or something, like, why would a team like Detroit want Russell Westbrook? Like, that makes no sense for their rebuild. That, like, even if they could get out of contracts, they don't even really have that bad of contracts. I'm just saying, like, even if they did have a bunch of bad contracts, like, it still doesn't make sense. So I don't know what team A, fits for him, and B, would actually want him on their team, like ruining their locker room and their chemistry and stuff. So I think that Lakers are pretty much stuck with him for the remainder of that contract.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's not working out there, but it's not all Westbrook's fault. I mean, he missed the game against Portland, and they lost. They got deeper issues than that. We'll see how long LeBron stays there. Anyway, player card time. Anfernee Simons, Eric, 30 points,
well, let me just
assists.
Say, real quick, we barely talked about Simons last game.
Mm-hmm.
The Laker game, and he was really good.
And he had 29.
I just want to make sure we say that he had a great game, but like, it's at this point, it's kind of like we expect him to do that. Like,
yeah,
it's not like he's surprising us anymore with these great games. So like, it's just like, okay, he had another good game, right? So
yeah.
It's like, yeah, we know Ant's good, right? Type of situation.
Well, it's just like there's been a consistent kind of theme to his games lately where he starts off super slow.
Yeah, he was like 1 for 5 or 1 for 6 in this game.
Yeah,
too.
and I think like last game he was like 1 for 8, and then he gets insanely hot and makes it a respectable shooting night and has like 30 points. Right? That's kind of been the theme of his game. Did you realize before that Lakers game he had scored 19 points 4 games in a row?
Yeah.
I just realized that. I was just looking at his game log. But he was 11 for 23 last game and 5 for 11 from 3. This game he's 11 for 23 and 6 for 12. So almost identical shooting numbers to the last game. His efficiency has dipped a little bit on the season going into this game. He's shooting 39% from 3 and 44% from the field. Still respectable numbers, almost 50% from 3. True shooting percentage of 57%. And with no help around him, that's respectable numbers. But the playmaking has been fun to watch. And 8 assists today. He's averaging right now a little under 4 assists per game, but since he's became a full-time starter, I think it's probably up around 6 or so. So, his playmaking was impressive today. Hit some timely shots, hit some big shots. I would just like to see him start a game hot.
Yeah, just maybe have a 40-50 point game with if he does that, right? Because I don't know, he's been money in the fourth quarter of these games.
Yeah.
To the detriment of the tank. And Greg's saying in chat, can we get Tank Bomber added to his basketball reference page as a nickname?
Tank Bomber. That'd be funny. I mean, they got all sorts of random nicknames I've never heard of for players, so that might be a possibility. Before we move on to the next player card, Eric, shout out Jared Store, $5 dono. He says, I'm convinced we're just confused and somehow lose both first-round picks now. I mean, that's a possibility. Very unlikely. But if the Blazers played their way into the playoffs, which I don't think is going to happen, but and then the Pelicans moved up to the top 4 in the draft, then yeah, we would lose both our picks, Eric. That would be a really bad situation.
I mean, we do have that 11-game stretch where we're playing all the teams below us, and we could screw ourselves by going 9-2, 10-1 in that stretch.
Stop speaking it into existence. I'm not even going to let you talk anymore. Nope. Stop speaking it into existence.
At that point, all we have to do is win 2 games and we're in the playoffs.
Stop, bruh. I'm not gonna let you speak. Why are you trying to speak this into existence, bro? I'm a knock on wood. No, that's not what the Blazers want to do this year. We don't want to lose in the first round, and we need Jabari Smith, right, Eric?
We do need Jabari.
So then why are you speaking this into existence?
Jabari and Tari. Let's go.
Then why are you speaking this into existence, man? Regret for Chet. Be sorry for Tabari. Wallow for Paulo. I don't care. We need one of those 3 guys.
You combined it. You said Tabari.
I said Jabari. I mean, Tabari. If you want to combine both those guys, sure. But we don't need to lose our picks. Spurs 65, Pelicans 63. Thank you for the score update, Jason Lee. Shout out Hail Blazers. $5 donut says favorable schedule is going to hurt the tank. Yep. That 11-game stretch. I mean, Eric just talked about it. Thank you, Hail Blazers, for the $5 dono. I'm not looking forward to that stretch of games, Eric. I'm just going to say that right now. Because, honestly, I'm just going to be honest. I'm rooting for this team to lose. I'm legitimately rooting for this team to lose. I like seeing these guys play well, and it's enjoyable. So it's not like a situation where it's oh, dang, Ant made that shot. But I'm rooting for these guys to lose because I think it's going to help them win in the future if they can get a better draft pick. So, yeah, I mean, if they end up with the 9th or 10th pick, then maybe they can draft somebody, they can get a steal. That's always possible. But I want a top 3 pick really bad.
Yep. You realize the Clippers are an 8th seed. They're not trying to win necessarily either. We could conceivably only have to win 1 playing game to make.
Well, don't they... Are you sure they're not trying to win? Because don't they owe their pick unprotected this year?
Yeah, they don't care. But I mean, if they were trying to win, they'd probably be more inclined to have Kawhi and Paul George come back at some point. But yeah, obviously they don't have their pick, so they don't care what happens to them. But
yeah, I mean, we passed New Orleans currently. It depends on this New Orleans game, but we passed them, right? We still have the same picks. Mm-hmm. We still have the 8th and 9th picks right now because they just swapped. But yeah, would like to get into the top 3. I don't think 8 and 9 is enough to package to get into the top 3 either, given the way this draft is kind of structured. So, would like to get some lottery luck and put ourselves in a good position for that. We'll look at the tank race a little bit later. Anyway, let's move on to Ben McLemore. Did he have 28 today? He had 17 today. I don't know where that graphic's from. Did I double up I think I might have glitched out the graphics again. I think I might have doubled them up. Yep, I did. Okay, hold on. Let me fix this. That's my bad, not Krish's, actually. I keep, I have a base folder, right? And I put every post-game... or I just copy and paste it for new post-game shows, and I keep forgetting to delete the cards that are from like a game earlier this season. So that's like the third time that's happened. Anyway, let me put the slideshow back up here, and we'll be good to go.
Beerus says Fox is trash. Yeah.
Should have traded him instead of Halliburton. Yep. All right. Cool. We should be good to go here then. Next up, we got Josh, our savior, Hart. 23 points on 7 for 12 shooting. Super efficient night for him. 3 for 6 from the three-point line. And 6 for 8 from the free throw line. In 37 minutes, he had a couple assists as well. 4 turnovers, 4 personal fouls. So he was a plus 12. What'd you think of the newest Blazer?
Yeah, great game. He's usually a little better rebounder than that, but yeah, I don't know. We have such good rebounding with Nurkic that maybe his rebounds might fall off a little bit, but yeah, I don't think we could ask for a much better debut other than maybe the 4 turnovers.
Yeah, but I mean, turnovers are to be expected when he hasn't played with any of these guys before. He's going to be a good player. I thought it was crazy that people suggested cutting him for nothing for cap space. If that was really your master plan, you need to trade him, either now or in the offseason, because he has first round pick value. And I think Norman Powell also had first round pick value. We didn't get a first back for him, so who's to say we'd get a first back for Hart if we traded him? But at this point, I want him on the team next year. Perfect third guard, can play some 3 next to Damon, and he's perfect. He's the type of guy that you want as your third guard. Not necessarily much of a point guard, but he can pass, man. And he had a couple impressive passes in this game. It didn't necessarily result in assists, but the dude just knows how to play. He makes the right play. He's a smart player, and he plays hard. And he plays good defense. He's strong enough to guard threes. He's going to be a fan favorite the rest of this year and hopefully going into next year.
Yeah, and there was one of his turnovers. He got confused with Ant on a handoff or something, and the ball went out of bounds. But then, got the ball right back on a charge call, like 10 seconds later. So, yeah, it's a good. Players like that are always good to have. Who just, dude, you can just tell he knows how to play the game. His feel for the game is so good, and there were so many plays on defense, particularly off ball, where you could see him communicating and just being in the right spot. And it's been a while since we've had one of those guys that just is always in the right spots and always knows what to do in certain situations without having to think about it, and it's kind of like having a second coach out on the floor. And he's really going to improve our team defense, I think, a lot.
Yep. And if that Pelicans pick ends up 9th or 10th for us, then I think that's honestly a good CJ McCollum trade. Getting back a guy like Josh Hart and then a potential lottery pick is a pretty good return for CJ McCollum. That pick just needs to end up in the lottery. I think this trade will look better kind of as the season goes on, because I think Josh Hart is going to look really good here in Portland, just like he did today. Anyway, let's move on to Ben McLemore. This is the correct Ben McLemore slide. 17 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 6 for 12 from the field, 3 for 9 from 3. I think I just saw the comment that you laughed at. I hope Tori and Eric don't turn on him like they did with Norm. Well, if Josh Hart stops trying defensively, Eric, and starts phoning it in and not showing any passion and complaining about calls and jacking up weird shots to try and bait fouls and then not running back on defense if he doesn't get the call, if he starts doing all that type of stuff, then yeah, we will turn on him a little bit, and we will criticize him for that. The thing is, I don't think Josh Hart has that in his DNA. Unfortunately, Norman Powell apparently does. So that's why we turned on Norm. That's why we were frustrated with Norm, and Norm didn't want to be here. I think Josh Hart is the type of guy, he wants to be here. He'll be, I don't see us turning on him at all. Eric, he's going to be good here.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I necessarily fully turned on Norm. It's just he, like you said, obviously was not super comfortable with the way Chauncey coached him, and he wasn't giving maximum effort like Chauncey was demanding out of people. So that's, I mean, I don't know. It's not that we turned on him. It's because he became part of the problem. And I think one we weren't sure what the problem was necessarily earlier in the season, right, when things were going bad. And then he's, gets COVID or whatever and sits out, and then he misses 3 games of personal reasons after that. So we have a good 2-week period where we see this team without him, and then he comes back and he didn't necessarily do anything wrong. It's just, and I can't even say it's 100% effort or anything like that, but it's just awkward when you have players all seemingly working together and trying to achieve a common goal together, and then you see a player come in and kind of mess with that a little bit. And again, it's not necessarily Norm's fault. I just think that it became apparent that he wasn't the best fit on this roster, and I thought we should have traded him. Still think he was more valuable in a trade than we gave him up for, because just because he's not a good fit on our team doesn't mean there's not several teams that he would have been a good fit for. But at the same time, I don't think Torrey kind of did, but I don't think I ever was super biased against him or whatever.
I wasn't biased against him either.
You got pretty frustrated and heated about him, but
but everything I criticized him for was things that he was doing or not doing. It wasn't like, oh, I see Norm's face, screw him. You know what I mean? It wasn't like that. It was, I got so frustrated to the point with all the crap that he did and the effort that he didn't give that I didn't like him. I didn't get hyped when he played. Maybe it's because I didn't get hyped when he played super well, but that's because it's okay, the dude can score the ball. What about the other stuff that he's not doing? You know what I mean? So I don't think it was biased necessarily. I wanted him to be the answer. I wanted him to be a good defender. I liked him before he got traded here. I wanted him to be that two-way player. And I think that he has it in him physically to be that two-way player. The problem is he didn't seem to want to be that two-way player. So that was my problem with Norman Powell. Anyway, before we move on to talking about Ben McLemore, Eric, we have another score update. The Spurs are up 12. 80-68 with 6 minutes left in the third quarter. And the Sacramento Kings have taken the lead in Washington, 82-80 with 5 minutes left in the third quarter. So both those games are trending the way that we want them as Blazer fans. If that continues, it makes this win not so bad in the tank race,
Go Mo Harkless, 15 points.
Look at Mo, man. Mo just needed Domantas Sabonis to shine. Mo, he's 3 for 3 from 3. That's the deal. But he can cut, and playing off of Sabonis, that's interesting. They just have 3 non-shooters there in that starting lineup with Sabonis and Fox and Harkless. But Harkless isn't a non-shooter tonight, so good for him. Anyway.
Joey says, let's just be honest, the vibes on this team was bad in the beginning. It's so much better now. Man, the vibes on this team are so good right now. We have Ingles showing up when he probably shouldn't even have come to Portland, you know what I mean? And he's going to be great in the locker room. You have him and Hart developing chemistry when they've never even played with each other. You have all these young guys who are just going crazy when we came back and took the lead. It's nothing but good vibes, and that's one positive thing is I feel like we got rid of some of the bad vibes.
Yeah, and that was my problem with Norm. It's just as NBA players, just bring it consistently. Just play with effort, man. It's not that hard to get excited when your teammate does well or play hard on defense. You know what I mean? And it's just the fact that that's questionable for some of the players that were on this team at the start of the season is just extremely disappointing and something that I didn't really foresee. So, we got to get more talented because, for as good as the vibes are always going to be okay, at least when you're winning. Mm-hmm. I think the vibes will still be fine. The vibes have been fine when we're losing recently. But you gotta get that combined with talent, right? So now it's how do we kind of cultivate maybe a new culture and kind of the culture that we've had recently into a talented enough team to make some noise in the playoffs. That's going to be step 2 of everything, and hopefully we're able to pull off a good step 2. Anyway, let's talk about Ben McLemore. We've been on a slide for a minute. Plus 22 in 31 minutes, 17 points, 6 for 12 from the field, 3 for 9 from 3, which means he was 3 for 3 inside the arc, Eric. So not a typical Ben McLemore shooting night.
Yeah, he had a great cut and find, I think it was I don't remember if it was Hart or Ant that found him, but maybe Winslow. And then he had a nice drive towards the end of a shot clock and scored. Yeah, I still think he doesn't need to jack up as many threes, especially when he's not open. But other than that, he continues to play well as long as he's shooting okay.
Yep, I agree. Let's move on. Before we move on, Dro, $2 dono says Nurk and Winslow is just like Harkless and Nurk. I don't really think Winslow and Harkless are that similar, but Winslow is a better ball handler and passer than Harkless. But just having guys that cut and know how to play off of Nurk is crucial. And I hope that next year when Nas is back, he continues to kind of learn how to cut and kind of play off of a guy like Nurkic, who I expect to be back next season. Thank you, Dro, for the $2 dono.
And it's important to note, I guess, in 2019, Nurk goes down, but that team still made it to the Western Conference Finals without Nurk playing at a really high level. So, if he develops that kind of chemistry, I don't know. I can't tell if that's a negative or a positive comment, but we had a pretty good run with Mo.
Yep, I agree. Anyway, let's move on to Justice Winslow. 6 assists, 14 points, 5 boards. 5 for 10 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3. Very good statistical night for Winslow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's hustling out there, full of energy. I love when he gets the ball and just takes it coast to coast or, draws some players and kicks it out. And I like that Chauncey's encouraging that as well.
Yep. I don't expect him to have... This is a pretty good offensive game for him.
Right.
But just coming within the flow of the offense. So, he passed the ball well today, made the right plays. You like to see that. And we already talked a lot about Winslow and maybe the problems if he's a rotation guy on the team next year. But I wouldn't mind bringing him back as an insurance policy for sure.
And, he's under contract next year, but Ethan says, I don't like that he got 37 minutes. And that's what I was talking about earlier in the show. It's like that is the key maybe to not winning some of these games. It's like Winslow's playing great, right? You don't have to play him 37 minutes. And that's what I don't get about the people who tried to tell us that we had to make bad trades so we could tank properly, right? It's like, no, you don't have to play Rocco and Norm 37 minutes like this night, because if they would have been on the team, that's what would have happened, right? So, in my opinion, they should kind of, you don't want to lose, like the players and coaches shouldn't want to lose on purpose, but you should also want to use this time to develop players. And like I said, if they win only playing Justice 25 minutes or whatever, then fine. But like if you win and play all your starters big minutes, I just don't see how that's the greatest thing for this team moving forward.
Yeah, I agree with that. Would rather play Greg Brown more minutes, to be honest. Shout out to Pim for a $5
you got his
donut.
name right. Shout out to Tori for not saying Prim.
I really thought about it while I was saying it, and you just got to point it out, man. As if, I'll point out all your mispronunciations too, so I guess it's only fair. Shout out to Pim, not Prim. I'm not going to say the last name because I'm just going to take, me successfully saying his first name right. But Pim, $5 donut says, I want to see Portland win every game this year. Is that bad of me? I want to see Portland win every game next year. Okay? So that means they should lose games this year.
Silver lining is to making the playoffs. I guess we'd have all our future picks to trade again.
Sure. I'd rather have a Jabari Smith. And then... Yeah.
But if we win all the rest of the games this season, we'd win the championship, wouldn't we?
Well, obviously, but we can win a championship this year, sure. But we're not winning a championship this year. We need to take. But I keep saying,
and Justice Winslow and Josh Hart are going to lead us to a championship.
I keep saying we need a tank for Jabari just because that's who you like. We honestly just need a tank for Chet. If I'm keeping it real, Pim with another $5 dono. He says, "Shout out to Tori with an I." Bro, I said your name right. Well, I didn't deserve that. Okay, Prim. I mean, you just lost.
I mean, he gave you $5 to say that, so.
True. Honestly, you can call me Tori with 2 eyes if you want, like Tori Hunter. If you're donating, I'm cool with that. Anyway, thank you for the donations. Pim with a P-I-M and no R. Anyway, let's move on to Yusuf 5. What a stat line! I didn't realize he had 20 rebounds. Eric, he was a 5x5 if you count turnovers and personal fouls. 12 points, 20 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 for 10 from the field. It was a very weird game for Nurkic. Like, statistically, looks solid. He had some really terrible looking moments in this game as well. What'd you think of Nurk tonight?
Yeah, good on the boards. 6 assists you like to see. 5 of 10 is fine, I guess. But man, the turnovers, Nurk, come on, man. Like, the 5 turnovers have got to stop.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else?
No, I mean, he's fine. See, Nurk's in a weird situation where obviously he wants the team to win, but I think he also understands that this isn't like the greatest situation for him necessarily. So I don't know. I mean, even though he's getting a bigger role, I mean, maybe he's okay with that, but like, I don't know. I think he's much better with. I can't even say that because we're winning games, so like it's not even. So never mind.
All right, let's move on to MJ Eligo. 5 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, 2 for 6 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. Had 4 fouls. Was a -12. What'd you think of him?
He was not out there in the fourth quarter comeback. Shout out to him for my son actually got to be on the floor for the warm-ups. This was the makeup to him for missing that Brooklyn game earlier in the season. And yeah, you got CJ Eligote as the guy who handed him a t-shirt at the end of the warm-ups. But yeah, so shout out to him for that.
How did he enjoy it? Did he enjoy it?
I haven't talked to him after the game. I just heard like through my mom that he was having a lot of fun. So
that's good. That's good. Yeah. He finally got his chance because I
yeah.
know it got canceled twice before. So
yep.
Yeah, good.
And
for
of course, it happened at the end of the season, so it wasn't like Dame or the other CJ or whatever. But you know, we move.
We move. Yeah, and we move on to Elijah Hughes. Hey, he shot a 78-footer as his first shot with the Portland Trail Blazers. Respect. All right. 5 points, 1 rebound, 2 for 6 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3 in 11 minutes. He's intriguing to me. I haven't talked about him at all, really, but I liked him in the draft. He can shoot a bit, has okay size. What is he, like 6'7"?
He's actually 6'4".
Is he 6'4"? I thought he was like 6'7".
Nope, he's like 6'4.5" or something with
Are you sure?
With a slightly shorter standing reach than Norm.
Are you really?
I'm positive because I looked it up and it was like 1 inch taller, and obviously his standing reach is better, but Norm had a bigger wingspan and a bigger standing reach.
So you just said a standing reach. I don't know. That's confusing. But, I mean, that sucks. I thought he was a little bit bigger than that. But, I mean, he can shoot a little bit, has a little bit off the dribble game. He's intriguing as just kind of a piece that maybe could be like a 12th man next year. So it'll be good to get a good look at him. Because before, like, he had like a 26-point game for the Jazz. And then, I don't know if he got COVID or what, but, like, he didn't play after that. And he hasn't really had a consistent chance. So, it's nice for him to get to Portland in a situation where he might get a consistent chance to play some minutes. I thought Elijah Hughes was 6'7". I'm not thinking of Didi Lozada or however you say his name. I thought Elijah Hughes was a little bit bigger than that. I think Syracuse he might have been listed as 6'6" or 6'7". But I mean, he'll get a chance to play, and that's good for him. Good for a young player to maybe prove that he belongs in the league.
See, yeah, when we traded for him, I looked it up immediately, and then I was like, oh, crap, because everything you said about Keon Johnson applies to him, too. So
yeah. I mean, honestly, though, that trade of I didn't like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I know some Portland fans liked him. I don't really know why. I have never really liked Nickeil Alexander-Walker. The only thing he supposedly does well is score, but he's insanely inefficient. Insanely inefficient. He's like 38% from the field and 31% from three. So it's like he had no value to me, in my opinion, because he got a consistent chance to play, and we kind of figure out what he is. He's a guy that, in my opinion, doesn't really belong in the league outside of being like a 13th, 14th man. I was surprised he played so much for the Pelicans, to be quite honest with you. I never really liked Nickeil Alexander-Walker's game. So getting back Joe Ingles, if we re-sign Joe Ingles and he comes back at some point next year and is able to be productive just as a guy who can play okay defense and knock down threes and pass a little bit and be a good vet in the locker room, then that trade is a W. What determines that trade is Joe Ingles, in my opinion. It doesn't really matter what Elijah Hughes does.
All right. For all those trying to clap back at me in chat, Elijah Hughes, official combine measurements, 6'4" and 3/4, 8.5, 8'5.5" standing reach, 6'7.5" wingspan. He is smaller. I mean, he's an inch taller than Norm, but basically smaller everywhere else, like wingspan, standing reach, that kind of stuff. So
yeah, he's similar.
Same problems. Same problems. So
he's similar to Norm. But, like, that's the thing. If he's just, like, a bench guy that comes in and can knock down threes, maybe replaces the McLemore role. I don't think he's as good of a shooter as McLemore, of course. But if McLemore walks, maybe he's a guy that's on the team next year in, an insurance role. We'll be able to get a chance to see if he maybe deserves that or if he just doesn't have it in the league. Anyway, let's move on to Trendon, who continues to evolve. Who's that behind his stats? I can't tell. Anyway, is that Draymond? Is that who Trendon is now? This graphic will continue to evolve. It's going to be interesting to see what else Chris is able to do with this thing, because this thing is an absolute masterpiece. 4 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists in 15 minutes. Hit his only shot, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, had 2 turnovers, 3 fouls. What'd you think of Trendon today?
I thought he was fine. Hopefully he learns from that one situation where he got the charge. But other than that, I thought he played fine. And I don't get 15 minutes, man. I just don't get it.
Yeah, he needs to play more minutes, man. At the 4.
This is exactly what I was talking about earlier. Like, you know what I mean? The guys like Trendon need the minutes, we don't need to see Justice Winslow for 37 minutes. We can play Trendon some, and see what we got there.
Yeah, I agree with that. Score update. Spurs 98, Pelicans 82 at the end of the third. The Pelicans can't play any defense. They gave up almost 100 through 3 quarters. That game is looking really good for Blazer fans. And then the Kings are up 96-88 over the Wizards with 10 minutes left in the fourth. It looks like Sabonis might have made their team a little bit better this year. I don't like that move long term for them, but it might be better for them this year, and they might be able to make a play-in spot. So good. The other scores are good. If Portland lost today, I mean, we'll look at the tank standings once these 2 games are final and see kind of where Portland slots in and where they would be if they had lost today. That will come in the future. But yeah, Trendon has to play more minutes. That's for sure. I don't really understand playing Justice Winslow 37 minutes. I mean, we kind of know what he is as a player. We need to continue to develop Trendon and continue to try and grow his game through more than 15 minutes a game.
Yep, agreed.
All right, let's move on to...
Shout out to Hailblazers with another donation, $2. Everyone liked this stream.
Yeah, we're at
thanks, man.
66 likes. Let's get that up to 100. We got 264 viewers in here. Let's get that like count up to 100. It helps us out. Thank you to Hailblazers for advertising likes. Just like the stream, because we rarely ask. We're not like those typical YouTubers that shout at you constantly to like everything we do. So just like it, just because we don't do that, and we let you guys do it on our behalf. So thank you, Hailblazers, for that. Anyway, Shaggy Squid, $2 Australian dono, says Pels are going to miss Hart's defense. That's very possible. Very, very possible. That's the thing is they need a lead guard, but defensively they struggle. They just need Zion back. It's going to be interesting to see how good they are with Zion back. They're going to be really good offensively, I think. Defensively, it's a question mark. Herb Jones is kind of their only legitimate defender in their rotation at this point, in my opinion. Anyway, Thank you, Shaggy Squid, for the dono. Greg Brown, Eric, had a nice putback over Trendon Watford. He put Trendon Watford on a poster. He was 1 for 4 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3. Those 2 missed threes, one he almost banked in, and one he airballed long. So very, very bad misses there. What did you think of Brown tonight? He actually played more than Trendon.
Yeah, I don't like him shooting threes. Like I said about Trendon, I want him to play more in this particular situation. But overall, I see him starting to pick up the game a little more when he's out there. He's not quite looking as lost as he was when he got a few spot minutes in the rotation earlier in the season due to injuries or foul trouble or whatever. And I like that he's actually seemingly learning on the fly, and I think that bodes well for how well Chauncey is doing coaching him. And we also heard tonight on the Blazers broadcast that he's also kind of like what we've been saying about Anfernee Simons, where he is constantly telling Chauncey to tell him what he's doing wrong. He wants him to be hard on him. He wants him to just like lay it all out there and be honest with him. And I like that attitude.
Yep, I agree. With that, let's move on to... Oh, no, we're done with the player cards. All right.
He was open for a couple lobs, too, that we threw. We throw so high to...
We're trying to give him the chance to have a highlighter.
I know, but it's too high. Yeah.
Alrighty, let's get into the Twitter space. All right, let's start our Twitter space. Probably going to keep it slightly shorter today, maybe 20 to 30 minutes. I always say that, and then it goes for like 45. It goes longer, but we'd like to get your
trades to talk about anymore.
Yeah, we don't have trades, so going to be interesting to see what we got today. Chris, I agree. We should have got Murphy. That would have been the cherry on top with that trade. The Pelicans have cut the lead from 16 down to 12. 102-90 with 9 minutes left in the fourth. Zach Collins isn't playing in this game. CJ McCollum, dude, is having a good game, though. Outside of the turnovers, 6 turnovers, he has 25 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 10 for 17 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3. All right, let me get this set up.
Is Zach not here tonight?
I just said I'd start it. It's just easier if I start it.
Okay.
I need to... Oh, I'm logged out of my Twitter account, so this might take a couple minutes. Eric, just take questions from chat for now while I get logged back into my Twitter account.
All right. Let's see. Does anyone have any questions that cannot access the Twitter space? Yes, Priest, we know we need to lose, but unfortunately this team is playing too hard right now. All right. Thanks, Zach. YYC, sorry, no breakdown tonight. I am at work, so I have to watch the game on my phone, so I can't take pictures. I apologize. But yeah, hopefully starting next game and get back to doing that. All right. Grizzlies are up big. Spurs are back up by 12. Kings are up 8 with 8 minutes left. Hopefully all those hold. What do I think the ending place in the Western Conference Finals or in the Western Conference will be? I'm hoping we finish like 12th, I think obviously we can fall lower than that, but that would be probably ideal. But yeah, I think we're going to stay probably in the 11th range. We'll definitely have one team pass us below it. I don't know if we'll have more than one, though. Tori is really trying to figure out his password there.
No, I'm making the space right now. I had to reset my password.
I'm just kidding. Yo, Eric, what do you eat for breakfast? Well, I mean, I don't have the same routine every single day. I eat a lot of egg sandwiches because my little ones like egg sandwiches. Yeah, I also like donuts way too much and stuff like that. So, not always the healthiest breakfast, but yeah.
I had a egg sandwich, or like a egg. What else was on it? Cheese. There's something else, I think, like sausage patty or something. I forget. Had one of those this morning. It was pretty good.
Yeah. I know you didn't make that, though.
Yeah. Shout out to my mom, man. Shout out to my mom for making me breakfast this morning.
Brendan asked you were allowed to do Uprise streams at work. Yeah, I own my own business, so I can do whatever the frick I want.
The Twitter space is linked in the chat. Feel free to call in. You got to be on mobile to call in, though. We'll take your questions, opinions, all that type of good stuff. Eric, once you're co-host, I will mute myself on Skype, and we'll roll from there. Eric, what do you tie if the Tyrese Halliburton? I don't know what that means.
I'm in.
Cool. All right.
Tie.
I'll send you co-host. Zach, I don't need to make you a co-host. I'll let you request to speak on the Blazers Uprise account if you want to call in. But I think I can handle everything. Unless you want to be co-host on the Blazers Uprise account, I don't care. Just let me know in Discord. That way I can know for sure if you want to talk or not, because last stream I ignored you. Or I shut it down like right when you tried to talk. So that was my apologies. Anyway. Alright, cool. Eric's co-host. Alright, Eric, just unmute yourself. We'll be good to go. Alright, so... shout out to Pim, $5 dono, says, did the Kings get fleeced by the Pacers? What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, getting Halliburton is definitely a fleece in my opinion, but I will say I'm a little higher on the Sabonis thing than most people are, because I think he is a good player, and I think that's being totally thrown aside, how good he is and how good of a contract he's on.
Yep.
And then the Mavs, yeah, as YYC points out, the Mavs got fleeced harder than anyone I've ever seen. So that was, yeah.
Yeah, the Mavs trade was terrible. I mean, the Kings are better this year. I just don't really understand what their long-term plan is. I feel like this could be a situation where they have to, like, restart a rebuild without even making the playoffs. So, it would suck to be a Kings fan. Anyway, join our Twitter space. I will post the link in chat once again. Go ahead and request to speak, and we'll possibly bring you into the space. We, of course, reserve the right to, choose who we bring into the space or not. No, I'll just put that out there. But yeah, we'll take your calls. Feel free to call in. If not, we can always move on from things a little bit early. Who got fleeced harder, us or the Mavs? The Mavs got fleeced the hardest. Carson, that trade was terrible. One of the worst trades I've seen in years, maybe ever. That trade was comically bad. Bertans, honestly, I would have said I wouldn't have wanted Dinwiddie and Bertans straight up if I was the Mavs without giving anything up. So I don't understand that at all.
Yep.
Bertans' contract is so bad that it's like worse than I think Dinwiddie is good.
Yeah.
So that made no sense to me.
I agree.
But I think he was talking about, like, Go Hawk says definitely Mavs. We got Hart. I think he was talking about the first trade, because I think the Clippers trade was the second worst trade of the deadline. Mm-hmm. And then third worst was maybe the Kings, because I really do not like that trade for the Kings. Anyway, Still waiting on callers. And we'll bring you on. And until then, we'll just answer questions in chat. Because I want to give you guys the chance to call in. Eric, isn't it funny? Now there's nobody that really wants to call in when there's no trades to talk about. Everybody wants to talk about trades. Some of it's not trades. It's nobody has anything to say, unfortunately. Unless my space is glitching. How many people do we have in this space right now, Eric? Other than me and you and the Blazers Uprise account, there's 4. Does that look correct to you, or? We got Derek. Okay, cool. I'll bring Derek in here. What's going on, Derek?
Hello.
What's up, man?
Hey, how are you guys?
Doing good. You know, I'm hoping the Spurs can pull out this game. That's kind of what I'm rooting for right now. The Kings look like they're going to pull out their game, so a lot better. Considering I was kind of rooting for the Blazers to lose. I didn't really mind the win, I guess, but you know, I'm full blown tank season right now. How you doing, man?
It's been an interesting couple of days for me. I am currently in the middle of wisdom teeth surgery.
Ooh.
So,
did you like already get your wisdom tooth pulled, or are you waiting on it?
No, I got it on Wednesday.
Okay.
How you feeling?
I'm good.
Yeah, that's not fun. I was gonna say, did you get it today? Are you like all gassed up and like loopy calling in?
No, but I was during the trade deadline.
Nice.
Oh, well, I bet that was a trip. Did that make it more enjoyable, do you think?
I don't know. It made it interesting.
That's funny. Anyway, what you got for us, man?
Oh man. I mean, hopefully the Spurs can win this game. I was really surprised that the Blazers were able to pull off this win today, honestly.
Yeah.
35-11 fourth quarter.
What? We were down 15 at the start of the fourth?
Something like that, yeah.
That's ridiculous. I mean, good for us for playing hard.
23 halfway through the third.
We started off up 12-0 at the start of this game and then finished this game 35-11. So that's like a 47-11 run to start / end the game. In between that, it was like, let me do the math. What's 112 minus 47? 112 minus 47. In between those runs, we had 65 points. They had 92. It was like a 92-65 run in between the 12-0 start and then the 35-11 fourth quarter.
Wow.
Yeah. Game of runs, man.
Wow. Never seen anything like it.
Yep. Anyway, you got a opinion or a question or anything?
Who do you think is going to win the East, and how do you think Philadelphia's going to do with Harden?
Good question, man. Chat, let me know who you think is going to win the East. Right now, if I had to bet, I would go Milwaukee, just because they've done it before, and none of these teams are really proven at that high of a level. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, I think Milwaukee's the safe play. Don't forget about Miami, though. They are sitting there pretty quiet. But yeah, the Bucks are definitely the safe pick there. If everyone's fully healthy, there are no injuries, which obviously probably can't do. It'll definitely be interesting to see how Simmons fits in with the Nets, along with Curry. But that Harden and Embiid combo is going to be tough too. So it's definitely going to be exciting. But yeah, I'd still say and then you have teams like the Bulls too that we didn't mention. But yeah, definitely going to be exciting. I think the Bucks have a little bit of swagger from last year, and I think that's going to help them after winning it all. Like we saw them almost blow the Nets series because they you have all these questions about your team, like, can you do it? Will you ever win a title? Are you even good enough? Should you break up the team? And then you finally win, and you don't have to deal with all that. It's kind of relieves that pressure, and you can just go out there and play to your best of ability. So I'd say the Bucks. Yeah.
I would also say the Bucks. I think that Ben Simmons definitely makes it more competitive guarding Giannis, but I think the surprising team that has the best chance of beating the Bucks is probably the Cavs, just because I think they can guard him well.
Yeah. I'd also say the Raptors might match up well with them because they got Siakam, OG. Scotty is a rookie, hasn't necessarily been the best defensively, but they just have a lot of like 6'7" to 6'9" athletic, rangy forwards that they can throw up against a Middleton and a Giannis. So Toronto's won 8 in a row. Toronto's a sneaky good team. There's a lot of sneaky teams. I mean, you look at Boston. Boston's won 7 in a row. They've won 9 out of their last 10, and they just got Derek White to be their lead guard, got rid of Schroeder, so that could be an upgrade there. There's a lot of sneaky teams. I haven't really believed in Miami all year long. I don't know what it is with Miami. I just don't necessarily trust them, and I don't even have a good reason for it. It's more just a gut feeling. They could end up playing the Nets round 1. I would take the Nets in that series, assuming Kyrie's able to consistently play. Obviously, that's up in the air. That's what makes things hard with Brooklyn. I would take Brooklyn second if Kyrie could play consistently, but that's not a thing right now. So the East is going to be so much fun to watch, in my opinion. The first round, I mean, it's going to be 4 competitive series.
This is the first time the East has actually been like enjoyable, probably since Toronto, I think. Yeah,
I agree. Anyway, anything else you got, Derek?
My baby is being born in 10 days. So
congratulations. Boy or girl?
It's a girl.
Nice. Congrats, man.
Congratulations.
So you wanted to get the wisdom tooth out first before you had to deal with the baby. Yeah, that's probably smart.
Yeah, I went to the dentist and they're like, "Oh, by the way, you should consider getting your wisdom teeth out." I'm like, I probably should do it before she's born, so I have the money to do it. But because I was originally supposed to do in like 2014, never got to it, so had to.
It was your first kid?
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
Congrats, man.
Wow.
Appreciate it.
I'm sure Eric has some parenting advice if you need some.
I'm always open to suggestions. You can message me anytime.
Yep.
Anyway, man, congrats on the upcoming baby. Hope everything goes well with the childbirth and everything. Would love to hear how that goes, a couple weeks from now. I'm sure you're not going to have as much sleep, but, I always enjoy you calling in, man, so we appreciate it.
Appreciate it. We'll talk later.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Have a good one, Derek. Congratulations.
You guys should talk about that article, the CJ one.
Oh, yeah. After the space, I think. Unless somebody wants to talk to us about it in this space, then I guess we can. But yeah, we should. That's a good point. Yep. Appreciate it.
All right. I guess.
See you, man.
But with three minutes left in both games, Spurs up 16, Kings up 15. Let's go.
Done deal in both games. Let's go. Chris, you can update the standings with those games. The rest you don't even really have to worry about. Those are just obviously the 2 important games. And Memphis is up 104-83, so Chris, you can count that as a win for Memphis and a loss for Charlotte. It's always hard for around the NBA when we have early game, just because there's no way we can have the scores updating live in the graphic, unfortunately. There's a couple games at halftime. Denver's at the end of the third. None of the other games really affect where the Blazers are standings-wise, though. Anyway, next up we got Mills Woj. What's going on, Mills Woj?
Hey, Mills Woj.
What's up, guys?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I think a good thing to start talking about is next year around Dame and Ant, you guys touched on it a little bit, but I don't really think people understand that, the shooting, especially with Nurkic, if Nurkic is going to be the 5, which is, pretty much seems like a done deal at this point, that they're going to re-sign him. Obviously, you don't know what's going to happen, but I just think it's, you don't want Josh Hart to be that starting 3, even though I definitely want him on the team. You want, in a perfect world, that's why, Jabari makes perfect sense because of his shooting ability, or even Paulo because he can shoot, but, either of them, and then like another 3. I don't even really think Jeremy Grant would be a good fit alongside that sort of lineup because he's more of a 4, and he's not like a knockdown 3-point shooter who would just like to spot up.
Yeah.
So that small forward piece is like probably the most interesting thing that's going to come up, I think, before the season.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I personally don't think it's Nasir Little at this moment.
Eric,
I mean, unless we're trying to stretch this thing out.
Well, I'll give my thoughts on Nas as the starting 3 in a second. I'm just curious what Eric thinks, because I know Eric really likes Nas, but like, do you want to go forward with Nas as the starting 3 next year, Eric?
I mean, obviously, this is going to be tough because we're not seeing him in games, but I will say I think the last month, or as a starter, he was shooting close to 40% from 3. So if he can do that, even like 36 to 38%, and then he gets better like off ball defensively and stuff like that. I think he could be fine moving forward. It's just tough to know how he develops without him getting these game reps this year. But I think they're somewhat comfortable with it if that's what it happens. I know they would like to maybe get as good a forwards as they can, but I'm comfortable in putting it this way. I think Nas, at the very least, is capable of being in like a 3 or a 4-man rotation at forward. Whether that's as the starter or not, I don't think that matters that much, but I think he is for sure a at least in your 3-man forward rotation on a decent team.
Yeah, do you like him to close games?
Well,
I mean, closing games, I don't know. I mean, he's still young. He still has to develop a lot of things. I mean, like there was a game earlier against Chicago where he made, a defensive stop on Levine, guarding him one-on-one, stuff like that. Like those kind of guys are valuable. And I think if he develops the offensive part of his game, we saw him earlier in the season. He was a really good finisher. If he can continue that and become just a respectable 3-point shooter, I mean, that guy can do a lot of things out there. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'd be fine upgrading, but I'm also comfortable with him. I think he's still going to get better.
Yeah, I agree. I think it either has to be an upgrade or him, and you just ride with him and see how far he can go.
Yeah.
But not like
Personally, I wouldn't. Personally, I would not plan on Nas being the starting 3 going into next year. I would definitely try and get somebody better. I would want somebody better. I don't really feel comfortable if we're trying to contend next year with Nas as the starting 3. I feel comfortable with him being the first forward off the bench. I don't trust him to the point where like, oh yeah, he can be a starter on a team that makes a playoff run yet. And I think that's probably the unpopular opinion with maybe people in chat. He hasn't proven it enough on a big scale, and I'm not comfortable enough with his shooting, especially if we're bringing Nurkic back, which I hope is the case. Nas is like a 32%, 33% 3-point shooter, so you'd have a non-shooter in the starting lineup, and you'd have a below-average shooting 3 in the starting lineup, and who knows who the 4 is going to be. I would rather just kind of go out and get a more well-rounded veteran small forward, and then I like Hart with Nas off the bench, Hart being kind of the backup guard. You stagger Dame and Simons, so Hart gets all the backup guard minutes, and then Nas at the 3 behind that. The 4 I think is going to be easier to fill than the 3, because I do agree with Mills. I think like Jeremy Grant is more of a 4 than a 3. If we get into the top 3 in the draft, whoever we draft is going to start at the 4. So overall, I think it's more of a question mark who the 3 is going to be next year. Obviously, that's been Norman Powell, so he was questionable in that role anyway. So that's kind of, I don't know. It's so hard to predict what the Blazers are going to try to do as we go into the offseason with both those forward spots.
Yeah, I like the idea, too, of, not really getting a backup point guard and doing the Dame Ant like you do Dame CJ. Mm-hmm. And both of them run the offense. And I think Ant's going to be probably even better than CJ was at doing that, because he seems like he's becoming a better passer too. Obviously, everyone knows now he can score, but if he can really develop into being a really good playmaker, like our offense is going to be really tough to guard next season if he can play make with like a Josh and a Nas in the bench with him. Like that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, real quick, I gotta go for a minute. I'll be right back.
All right, that's fine. Just mute on the space and we're good. So it's anything else you got, like opinion wise or stuff for this?
I mean, we got a lot of spaces between now and the beginning of next
season. You're gonna
season.
save your ammo.
I gotta come up with more stuff. This was a question that I've been thinking about like ever since really the Laker game, because it's just we're so weak at the forwards. It's just so scary to me. Like obviously we're trying to go and get one in the draft, but you need those players in order to contend. And you saw how far like when like forwards can take you, like the Suns and like anywhere else, and like it's just something that we're gonna have not only to be able to play defense like Harkless and Aminu, what you guys are saying, but who can be a threat, because we've seen the movie too many times where our guards get trapped or our guards get taken out of offense and there's nothing that can bail them out. And like Chauncey's not Steve Kerr and is not going to probably, change the offense completely where it's not relying on that, and we don't have a Draymond type of playmaker. So we're really going to need those guys next year if we want to make a run.
I mean, you just need guys that are able to consistently hit threes, consistently play defense and play with energy, and then consistently make the right basketball play, the right cut, right? Which, I mean, isn't that hard? But there's also not enough guys in the NBA that do that. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah. I mean, Josh Hart today got me super excited, just that he was shooting threes, playing defense, and like made some nice cut. And I already think he likes playing with Nurk from what I saw today, which is good.
I prefer somebody a little bit bigger at the 3 and the 4, like just Al-Farouq Aminu and Mo Harkless, but just a little bit better shooters. And I think hopefully,
because those guys play hard every night.
Yeah. So I mean, like Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder would be perfect. You know what I mean? That's what Phoenix has there that works so well, is those guys just play their role really well. And so does Cam Johnson off the bench. They sub him in and he works. So that's going to be the key for the Blazers, I think, is just finding legitimate 3 and D guys. The problem is Rocco was too inconsistent from 3 and then defensively made too many mistakes this year, hunted for steals too much. Some people think Justice Winslow's the answer. He's just not consistent enough of a shooter for me.
Don't start. I don't want anybody to think that. We've seen Justin Winslow. I don't know if anyone knows, but he's been in the league for a long time. And every team has problems with him. Don't let him fool you guys.
And he's injured often, so I'm not sure you can rely on him, But Priest in chat says, Otto Porter and Nick Batum. See, if we got, like, Nick Batum and Otto Porter, I feel like I would want slightly better defenders than those guys. Those guys aren't bad defenders by any means. They're very solid, but I would want to try and get like more of a lockdown guy for at least one of those spots. But if not, those are 2 guys that would be ideal, especially if we have a full mid-level exception, $10 million to throw it, throw in free agency. Maybe we have to overpay one of those guys, but that might be worth it. So
I mean, hopefully the goal is one of those guys is Chet Jabari or Paulo. That's like the hope right now. Absolutely. And then if you can do that, then it makes next year very interesting, because you really should probably get someone at that 3.
Mm-hmm. Or if the pick doesn't end up top 3, maybe somehow, we stay around 9 and the Pelicans pick ends up like 12th. Maybe at that point, then you flip one of those picks for Jeremy Grant, and then you sign an Otto Porter or a Nick Batum and to a mid-level exception in the offseason, then draft whoever with whatever pick you keep. That could be the route they try and go, and then you're moving forward with like Dame, Simons, Batum, Jeremy Grant, and Nurkic. I wouldn't hate that lineup. I think that lineup could do something.
I mean, I wouldn't hate it, but that's sort of not what everyone in that press conference said that we're trying to do. That seems like a recipe for, that's probably a pretty solid, 45-plus win team. But, like, if we're looking for what Eric and you guys talk about all the time is, like, extend Dame's timeline with also giving him a chance to win, I wouldn't like us to flip next year right back to that and then have issues where like Nick Batum doesn't want to do what Chauncey wants him to do and then stuff like that, and then we're right back in the same boat.
Yeah, Eric,
Like,
you just got back to this conversation. I don't know if you've been listening to it, but we're just talking about like forwards going into next year, which is a really good conversation to have right now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And Priest and Chat brought up like Nick Batum and Otto Porter Jr.
Yeah. Well, there's one guy who's a free agent who's probably gettable, who I've never really liked, but he is probably a good fit. The problem is he's a little similar to Justice Winslow, but Kyle Anderson would be a good defensive forward that can play make a little bit, get to the rim.
I am shocked that you said Kyle Anderson.
I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to find like realistic forwards because like Batum's not a free agent, and like I guess Otto Porter Jr. might be, but, like someone like that who's had a good career at a forward position. But like I said, it doesn't really make sense because then you're talking about Hart, Winslow, Anderson, those kind of things. Yeah, it's tough with the lack.
If we start Nas, then I would really like to keep Ingles.
Yeah, Ingles was good too.
Like
if he's not like a huge minute guy.
Yeah, but if you had Nas starting, then I feel like Ingles is a good insurance policy where it's like get people out there who can make plays and make right decisions and hit the three. Like, because you could play Nas and he can play a ton of minutes and bring energy and bring defense, and then have Ingles sort of, back him up and sort of control like what you need.
Well, I feel like the plan next year is to go with a bench of Hart, Nas, Ingles, right? And like Nas and Ingles are the forwards there. Ingles, I think, is big enough to play the four, and if he's a little bit slower, maybe it makes more sense for him to be a four. But go ahead.
I was gonna say you could even do that, and maybe even have Trendon play too. If you have those guys.
I would like Trendon more as like a fringe guy in case somebody's hurt. And Ingles wouldn't be back right away, so maybe Trendon's the backup 4. You would need a backup 5 in that situation, preferably somebody that could shoot. But that bench I like more than any bench we've had in a while. And I liked our bench this year, but Nas is going to be another year more developed. Hart, I think, is the perfect third guard. Ingles is a playmaking 4 who can defend and hit some threes. He wasn't doing that well this year, but if he's just like in a 8th, 9th man role, I think he's perfectly fine once he comes back from injury. And then you find a solid backup center. And I really like that bench lineup. It's just who are the starting forwards in that situation. It's kind of, I wish this free agency class was a little bit better, because then it would make more sense to maybe go the sign and trade route with our TPE. This free agent class just isn't good, so it's hard to find guys that make sense.
I mean, they're putting themselves in the position in the summer where they have to make a trade, because they keep talking about free agency in the summer, but like there's no one. You can't go big game hunting in this class. Like there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see.
I mean, the other route too is, I don't know. One of you has my thing echoing. I don't know who that is, but one other option is if we get 2 picks in the top 14 or whatever. I mean, we could go super young and kind of do what OKC does and just keep adding assets until we find the right fit, and not necessarily go into the mindset saying you have to do it now this summer. It has to be the perfect fit, or you have to, if you don't, you have to go get someone. So like we could draft 2 athletic forwards and then just worry. We still have till the trade deadline next year to worry about how we're going to fit in with our trade exception or whatever. So maybe just find a way to do it that way. I think might be a good route, and then we could save our cap space or whatever for the following summer. Or you still have the
Yeah, I mean, like worst case scenario. I know you guys probably wouldn't want to do this, but if you don't find that guy, and if you get that top 3 pick, and if you're not that comfortable starting Nas, I know Josh Hart really can't create off the dribble, but like I like
you can create off the dribble.
Clay and Jordan Poole. If you could sort of mimic something like that until the deadline where you can make that upgrade, I feel like you can definitely hang in there and stay in the top 5 of the West with those 3.
Yeah, I'll have to come out with a video as we head like up to the off season with potential free agent forward targets, and then I'll make like potential free agent or potential trade targets for forwards, because I think this backcourt is set. Hopefully, you bring back Nurkic back as the center, so it's really just Nas is going to be one of the forwards. Ingles might be one of the forwards. Who are the 2 starting forwards in that situation? Who's the backup center? That's the roles left to fill. Obviously, we have the draft picks, so then draft targets as well. I'll probably do 3 separate videos for forward draft targets, forward, trade targets, and forward free agency targets. We got 3 different ways to go out and get a couple different forwards. So overall, it's going to be intriguing to see which way we go and who it could be, because there's no like obvious answer, right? And I felt like Josh Hart was the obvious third guard answer. The CJ to Pelicans rumors made sense. They really wanted him. Josh Hart was the perfect third guard, and we got him. And then last offseason, I predicted the Norman Powell trade as well. In terms of prediction for who our forwards are next offseason, I have absolutely no idea at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
Silent Wavy mentions Chris Boucher. He might be interesting.
As like a backup 5 or
yeah. I don't know about a starting forward.
Oh yeah, not a starter forward, but yeah.
Anyway, anything else you got, Mills?
No, thank you guys. I'm excited to see how this pans out.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you calling in, bro. All right, so Visual's been trying to call in, and I'm just gonna say this because he keeps talking in chat. Visual, you have 400,000 subs on your YouTube, and you don't have a video. I'm wondering how you have 400,000 subs, man. Because I don't know how you have 400,000 subs without having a video. That confuses me. So if you're able to answer that, I can bring you on, but that's very questionable to me. Anyway. Like I said, we have the right to bring on whoever we want or not bring on whoever we want, man. It's nothing personal. I'm just kind of confused how you have that amount of subs with not a single video. So if you're able to answer that in a way that makes sense, then cool, we'll bring you on. But otherwise, kind of sketches me out a little bit. Anyway. All right, we got Dro, Eric. Let's bring Dro on here. What were you about to say?
No, I wasn't going to say anything. I didn't say anything.
All right. What's going on, Dro?
Yo, what's up, guys?
Not much,
Hey,
man.
Dro,
How you doing?
Good. Hey, so my question is like, how can we get vets to like buy in? Like, do you think we could get somebody like Joe Ingles to like buy into our system? Because like Chauncey, like he likes to run up and down. Like, what kind of players can we get like realistically in this free agency class like coming up? Who can we get that like could like run up and down the court?
I haven't dove deep enough into this free agent class, so I don't really have like a specific target for that trait on the top of my mind. Eric, does anybody come to mind for you?
Well, I mean, we mentioned some guys, but I don't think it's about running up and down the court. I think it's about just being willing to buy into a team concept and being smart enough to know what Chauncey wants without pushback against it. So, like a player like Josh Hart is a veteran, but he's not going to come in and like be stubborn about it. Like he's going to do whatever the coach asks him. So I think it's more like that versus necessarily someone who runs up and down the court. So I feel like we have between Ant and Greg Brown and Nas and those kind of guys, we have ones that can run up and down the court. I don't necessarily think we have to target those kind of guys.
I only not literally like people who like run up and down the court, but I'm saying like when I noticed like a lot when we had the ball, like we would get like momentum, like the crowd would be like cheering us down and everything, and then like Norm would just get the ball and then he'd just like half-ass dribble. Like I want people who like Ant and maybe sometimes even Dame, like when he's really engaged and when he's not like hurt or anything, like somebody who's just gonna like give us some. I miss like good guys that we had, like a Harkless, or like people that would like have hustle and like dive on the floor. Like what kind of guy can we really get that could do that?
See, to me, that's where the draft picks come in.
Yeah.
So, a guy like Tari Eason is the ultimate energy, run up and down the court, just an explosive player who plays super hard on defense. If he ever figures out how to use his handles and ability to score in a way where he can play make a little bit, that guy could be really good. So I think you go after guys like that and build through the draft. I think that's going to be the smartest thing, rather than to overpay for Jeremy Grant and possibly be in the same situation you were in with Hall.
Yeah, Tari Eason reminds me of like a younger Herbert Jones. So Herbert Jones spent 4 years in college, is like already 23 as a rookie, I believe, if I recall correctly. Tari Eason's a freshman right now, so he's going to enter the league a lot sooner. But I remember...
He's actually a sophomore. He's 21.
Yeah. Who's 21? Herb Jones is?
Sorry.
Oh, Tari
Eason.
How's he only a freshman then?
Well, there was the weird like COVID year, and then I think it's a sophomore though.
Oh, is he? I heard he was a freshman. I forget. Anyway, no, I think he's a freshman because I think I checked yesterday. But Tari Eason just reminds me of like who Herb Jones was a couple years ago. He has to get better with his handle. He kind of like he can dribble. It's just he doesn't move super well with his dribble. Like his footwork isn't the best. He's not the most shifty guy. He's just kind of rigid in that regard. So if he can figure out how to kind of improve upon that and then knock down threes at a high clip, then he has a ton of potential in my opinion, because he's a phenomenal defensive player. So Tari Eason's like one of those guys who, I mean, maybe could start as a rookie if he can knock down threes, because he's going to be a good defender in my opinion right away, and he's going to be able to run and play in an up-tempo offense. You know, you don't necessarily want to trust a guy like that if you're contending, but you know, at that point, maybe you just start Nas and bring him off the bench. But that's definitely a guy that I'd be intrigued by with that Pelicans pick.
Yeah, I'm like, I absolutely agree with you guys. Like with the whole like youth movement thing, like somebody like Dame, like that's just so exciting to me to see guys that we could get that they could run up and down the court, play good defense. You know, allow Dame to just go off. Like we have such a important player on our team, like somebody who's definitely a top 5 player in the league. Like you can't find a better leader than Dame. Like I feel like he could really assemble, you know, a good team. Like I don't feel like we have to go get a big name guy to make any noise. Like Dame is that special of a player. We've seen that before. Yeah,
I agree. Anything else you got, man?
Nah, bro. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dro. Good to talk to you, man.
All right, man. You guys have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Your mic is slightly starting to glitch, Eric. Blazers, or Zach's around the Blazers Uprise Twitter account, and I saw him request to talk earlier. But now it's not there, so I don't know if it glitched out on your end, Zach, but we will bring you on. Otherwise, we'll take Billy Bob, and that'll be our last caller unless Zach wants to call in. Anyway. Let me get Eric back in here first before we take your call. Billy Bob. Eric sent you the co-host invite. All right, hopefully that's fixed. Eric, are you there?
Yeah, Zach canceled the request, and Tari is a sophomore.
Okay. Let's bring on Billy Bob. What's up, Billy Bob? What else were you going to say, Eric? Sorry.
I was just going to say I can hear everything I say through your microphone.
Yeah, well, let me turn down the volume then on my end, and that should be better. Anyway, what's going on, Billy Bob? What you got for us, man?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Good. How are you, Billy?
I can't complain. By the way, my name is Tim. I know it says Billy Bob.
We can call you
This
Tim.
was a burner just to follow like rappers and politics.
No.
I hate Twitter, so I don't even want to be like involved in it. So, but
yeah.
I was
Well,
gonna
hold on,
say,
Tim.
fuck, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, my bad. between Randle and Grant, I know you guys are not high on either of them, but I think one of them is definitely a Blazer by the offseason. So which one would you rather have? They play roughly the same position.
Grant
easily. I can't stand
Really?
Julius Randle. Yeah.
Is that like personality reason? Assuming neither of them have attitude problems, and just like in a vacuum for basketball.
Grant's a better defender. Grant, I trust more as a 3-point shooter. Grant, I trust more to play his role. Julius Randle is more like dribble heavy, takes a lot of weird mid-range shots. A little bit more ISO heavy. For all those reasons, that's why I take Grant. Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, like if you can convince Jeremy Grant to be back to being a role player or like, third best option on the team, he is good in that role. Whereas Julius Randle, I believe, just signed a contract extension with the Knicks to where he's going to be making this contract.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, that was rough.
Eric, try again. Your mic started to glitch.
Hello.
Okay, it sounds a little better now.
He's going to be making a ton of money on that extension, and also, I can't see him being a role player, but he's one of those Westbrook type players where he has to really have the ball in his hands to be the true version of himself or the best version of him. So I don't like him off ball or playing a role as a role player. So I just think he's a horrible fit on a team trying to win, and I just don't think you can win with him as your first or second best player.
Yep, pretty well said through all the unfortunate static, because I think your mic's glitching out again, Eric. But yeah, I don't like him playing a role off Dame. I don't like him playing a role off Ant. He doesn't play well off the ball. So guys like that, I kind of balk at. What are your thoughts on that, Billy Bob? Tim. Sorry, Tim. My bad. I gotta stop calling you Billy Bob.
One more time, and I'm just gonna leave the space, and I'm never coming back.
What are your thoughts on that, Tim?
Listen, Tim thinks that Randle is a little better than you guys are giving him credit for, but I understand where you guys are coming from. I personally really like him as a player because I did watch him a lot on the Pelicans because DeMarcus Cousins was one of my favorite players. So during that whole era for the Pelicans, I watched a lot of Julius Randle, and I really enjoyed him in that role. But I do like Grant. I like Grant more. I'm from Detroit. Well, I'm from Brooklyn, but I live in Detroit, so I've seen him up close. So I might be a little more biased. I think Grant's phenomenal defensively. When he's not the first option and has to do a lot with garbage guard play. I think he's such a pest. He's so athletic, he can recover. I just really like his whole archetype of a player. But You guys wouldn't give the Nola pick up for either of them, would you?
I don't really want to. It depends on if that pick's 14th, it's a little easier. If Tari Eason's off the board at that point and there's nobody else I really like, then that's easier than if it's 9th and Eason's on the board. But I'm curious why you think we underrate Randle. What is he better at, in your opinion?
I think he's a better shooter off the dribble. Me personally, I'm not of the belief that you can fluke an entire season of basketball. I think you can overachieve, but he's a better shooter than Jeremy Grant has probably ever showed that he's capable of doing.
Based on one season?
Not just on one. That's a lot of games though. It's not if it was 10 game sample size, all right, you're right.
Yeah, but it's 71. Okay, if we're looking at so his career 500 games, right? We're gonna take the 71 where he shot 41% and ignore the whole 500 where he's 30.
I'm sorry, let me cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, last season he shot 41% from 3 in 71 games, but for his career, which is 500 games, he's shooting 33.4%. And I would understand it if last year was 41% and then this year was 37, 38%, which would show he improved. The past 2 years he improved over his career, but he bounced up last year and he bounced back down where he's having a 30.7% 3-point shooting this year, which makes me think last year is an outlier. That's why I don't trust it. Whereas Jeremy Grant is struggling shooting the 3-ball this year, but for his career has consistently put together multiple seasons where he's shot 37, 38% from 3.
No, I understand. I just think he's out here slapping laptops on the sidelines. I think there's a lot more going on than just I lived in New York for 11 years. That fan base, I completely understand why he might have a mental block or some kind of, and he's playing with the ghost of Kemba Walker's knees. So I was I don't understand what their spacing is on that team. I think just next to Dame, he'd be such a much better player, but that's true for 90% of NBA players.
To be fair, real quick, we don't like either Grant or.
Yeah, no, I know. I did. That's the only two realistic people. I don't want to throw Max and Miles Bridges. Yeah. So like the only two people I see like that can realistically come in and do a lot would be Grant and Randle. That's again, who knows what could happen.
All right, I want to make a point. Is my mic working okay?
No.
It's I can understand.
It's staticky. We can understand you, so I was just letting you talk anyway. But it is very staticky, unfortunately. I don't know. I don't know why that's happening.
I mean, maybe Tori can take over for me.
No, now it's better. Now it's better. Now it's better.
Okay. All right. So, would you agree, Tim, that part of the problem this season was having a few veterans that were not necessarily doing what Chauncey was wanting of them, and they were kind of stubborn in terms of conforming to what we needed to do as a team?
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think that's like on the scale of problems. That's like on 4. I think if Dame's abs work, we're not even talking about this.
Right. True. Okay. But like a guy like Norman Rocco, obviously, we're having some issues with that this season at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've heard all last year and the first part of this year before we decided to sit Dame out. We heard multiple post-game shows or post-game press conferences where they talked about a lack of effort, a lack of aggressiveness, a lack of just they get punched in the mouth right away and they don't respond, like no one cares and nothing happens and all that stuff. And to me, you see a guy like Julius Randle who has a good season, gets paid, and then immediately goes back to being inefficient and not playing defense and having issues on and off the court with coaches and fitting in with teammates and stuff like that. To me, those guys you 100% stay away from, and you don't take a risk on any of them unless they're so talented that it's worth the risk. But when you combine the fact that Randle isn't the greatest fit with a Dame, in my opinion, I feel like then you don't want to take a risk on someone with an attitude problem like that.
Okay, true. Point taken. But I think in a market like Portland, the only way you could get guys like that is when their value falls for like extraneous, non-basketball related reasons. And if we're talking about getting punched in the mouth, Randle might actually assault somebody. So like his personality type might actually help on the Blazers.
That's true, yeah.
Some fine.
See, like, I understand the logic that, like, okay, he has some talent, and we're able to get him because he has these problems, so we should take it. But I think that the last year, or especially this season, has shown that talent can't make up for a lack of effort, or a lack of willpower, or a lack of energy, or a lack of commitment to defense. You know what I mean? So I just want to get away from that. I know he has some talent for his size, like he can handle the ball, shoot off the dribble a little bit, pass, but I don't think that like it would have to be a legitimate like all-star, and he's not. A legitimate all-star at the very least in order for me to justify bringing in a guy with those concerns after we've seen from the past season.
That's fair. I get it.
And here's my last point is if we're going to make the Dame and Ant backcourt work better than the CJ and Dame backcourt, we need competent, smart defenders at the forward positions. And I feel like Randle is more of a problem in terms of team defense than he is a solution to helping those two with how good they'd be offensively, combat that with a better front line on defense. And so I think if you get Randle, you're already putting yourself in trouble with 3 maybe slightly negative defenders, and then you have a help defender who's not a very smart defender or doesn't have a lot of good help defensive qualities, and that would bother me.
Yeah, I would try to pull Mitch Robb off the deal too, but I don't know how realistic that would be to get both of them in a just like we absorb them with TPE, then maybe some salary filler and a pick. If we could get Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle.
Mitchell Robinson's he's a free agent this summer.
Oh, is he? Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, actually, we feasibly could get him then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, all right, that's it. That's all I want to know. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, man.
Anytime.
Have a good night.
Likewise.
Alrighty. So Zach didn't want to call in, Eric?
He said never mind in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure to give Zach his chance after last space where I didn't give him his chance. Anyway, that's going to wrap up our space then. Thank you to everybody who called in. We're about to head around the NBA, look at the standings, and look at how things... Eric, unmute on Skype first.
I actually agree with chat.
What'd chat say?
I'd almost rather have Kristaps than Randle.
I would rather have Kristaps than Randle.
Yeah.
Because at least you can trust him to knock down threes and maybe play okay defense. That's like the two key traits we need is a guy that can space the floor and knock down threes and play good defense. So, like, I would rather have a Cam Johnson, Eric, than a Julius Randle. Because it's like, it's not all about amassing talent. Otherwise, the Lakers would be a top 4 seed in the West right now. Mm-hmm. But they're not. They're 9th because their talent doesn't fit. Okay? Like, fit is underrated. Sure, if you can cobble together 3 superstars, you're probably going to be just fine. But it's like the locker room matters. Fit matters. You see the Nets, everything kind of blows up in their face. Like, you got to get guys that fit. For that reason, I'd rather have Cam Johnson than Julius Randle because Cam Johnson's a solid defender and a knockdown three-point shooter and a smart cutter. And that fits better than a guy who's ball dominant, struggles to shoot the three, has potential attitude issues, and isn't a good defender. So it's all about traits in that role. If I had a bunch of good defenders and no good playmaker on the team, and maybe I would want Julius Randle over Cam Johnson. But given the core of this team, Julius Randle just doesn't make sense. It's a complementary piece.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Agreed. We had a dono from Pim again.
Oh, do you want to read that off while I get around the NBA ready?
Sure. So thank you for the, third donation tonight, Pim. Appreciate it.
Pim.
$10. Who's looking nice in next year's draft? It's kind of a generic question, but obviously the top 3 that most people have are all power forwards. They are Banchero from Duke, Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga, and Jabari Smith from Auburn. Those are, if we get any of those 3, I think we're in really good shape. Then the 4th best player on most people's board is Jaden Ivey from Purdue, but he's a guard, so I don't know how for us if he's looking nice in the draft. But in a generic question, who's looking nice in the draft? He is looking very nice. I personally really like Johnny Davis from Wisconsin, and then there's a big debate 6 through 15. There's a ton of guys who could go anywhere in that range. But there are a lot of forwards and stuff, including someone who's rising up draft boards. That's AJ Griffin, who's also from Duke. And I really like Tari Eason, who we talked about a little bit in that space. He's a really good defensive small forward with some length and quickness and all that kind of stuff. So, those are the kind of guys I'm looking at. There's also a scoring power forward who kind of reminds me of a little bit of a poor man's LaMarcus, kind of with a slight mix of Obi mixed in, and that's Keegan Murray at Iowa. And so there's lots of guys, and then there's a lot of point guards too, but unfortunately I don't think we need to draft a point guard if we get 2 picks. But
and if you haven't watched Chet Holmgren, who's honestly at this point, Eric, Chet has become my number 1 prospect in the draft, and that's subject to change. It's really close between him, Jabari Smith, and Banchero. But Chet Holmgren actually plays at 7 p.m. Pacific time in 6 minutes on ESPN against St. Mary's, which is a ranked team. So if you've never watched Chet Holmgren play before, he's a potential top 3 pick and a guy that I would like to see in a Blazer uniform if we could get a top 3 pick. So, if you have some free time after the stream, watch the Gonzaga game. That just means also, Eric, that we got to wrap up the stream soon. Anyway, let's head around the NBA if you're ready.
DJ Vega also mentioned Benedict Mathurin from Arizona, who's... it's going to be dependent on a lot of these people's measurements to see if they're long enough to play small forward or power forward versus guard or shooting guard, like we talked about with Keon Johnson and Elijah Hughes.
Yep, agreed. Anyway, let's go around the NBA. Some of these scores are not fully updated because we can't easily update the scores in accordance with the game, and Chris tries to time it with when we're going to start around the NBA, but Twitter Space usually pushes long. The Blazers won today. Chris gave the Knicks 100. How'd you get the score of our game wrong, Chris? That's what I want to know, man. Anyway, I appreciate Chris for the graphics.
Wait,
every time I criticize him, I gotta shout him out for helping us, but also gotta criticize him for we won today, Chris.
He just put the Blazers as the road team and the Knicks as the...
Yeah, that was probably the mistake there. So, anyway, the Blazers win 112-103. The Spurs take care of the Pelicans 124-114. CJ McCollum had 36 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists on 15 for 24 from the field and 3 for 7 from 3, but the Pelicans still lose, Eric.
Yep. Nice.
Which means the Blazers are in sole possession of the play-in spot. We'll look at the standings in a second. The Grizzlies were up 105-86. The Hornets cut it within 3. The Grizzlies won this game 125-118. However, Ja Morant 26 points. The Kings took care of the Wizards 123-110. De'Aaron Fox 26 points. Domantas Sabonis 16 points and 11 rebounds. The Kings are 2-0 with Domantas Sabonis. The Philadelphia 76ers they beat the Cavs 103-93. They were led by Joel Embiid's 40-point, 14-rebound outing. Embiid also had 10 assists, so a triple-double for the big man. James Harden has yet to make his 76er debut. The Raptors took care of... No, they lost by 1. The Raptors lost by 1 to the Nuggets, 110-109. Denver gets the victory. Jokic, 28 points and 15 rebounds. Let me go next slide. The Heat are currently playing the Brooklyn Nets. The score is 92-82. Heat in front with 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The Thunder are taking on the Bulls, and they're playing competitive so far in this game. The Bulls are currently leading 85-82 with 9 minutes and 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter. The Warriors and Lakers are playing on ABC right now at the half. The Warriors are up 65-62. Probably rooting for the Lakers in that game, Eric, because they can gain a game on the Pelicans. And we want the Lakers to stay above the Pelicans because we want that Pelicans pick. So believe it or not, we're rooting against the Lakers. It's a tight game at the half there. The Clippers and the Mavericks are currently in a tight battle. Clippers lead 53-52 with 9 minutes left in the third. And then the Suns are playing the Magic. They're up 62-44. That game is 2 minutes before the half. Looking at the Western Conference standings, this is updated for San Antonio and New Orleans and Sacramento, Eric. What are your thoughts on that playoff picture? Well, it's not a playoff picture. It's a lottery picture right now. The Blazers are only a game ahead of 13th.
It's,
Actually, I don't know. No, they're a game and a half ahead of 13th. They're a game and a half ahead of 13th right now.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I mean, we know what we have to do. Don't know if we're going to do it right, but we know what we have to do, right?
Yep, 100%. Well, let's pull up Tankathon. We'll do a Tankathon sim, and we'll look at kind of the tank situation right now via tankathon.com. There we go. Anyway, we got Portland right now in 9th. They swapped with New Orleans, so Portland currently would have a 20% chance of the top 4, 4.5% chance of the number 1 overall pick, would have a 74% chance at keeping the Pelicans pick. The Pelicans would have a 26% chance of getting into the top 4 from the 8th overall spot, but Sacramento is 6th, and we are only a game and a half out of 6th, Eric. That's the thing. If we lost these last 2 games, we would currently be in 6th right now for tank odds.
Nice.
So, we play Milwaukee next. We'll look at the upcoming 5 games. We got the All-Star break in there. Milwaukee should be a loss. Portland has a chance to really make up some ground here. Indiana choked yesterday. They almost won. So we're rooting for OKC, Indiana, Sacramento, San Antonio to all kind of pass up Portland here. At least that's me personally. Maybe you want Portland to win every game the rest of the season and make the playoffs. If that's you, that's fine. But let's simulate the lottery. And I might have spoiled it. Anyway, I'll simulate it again. You got Charlotte at 14, Atlanta at 13, the Lakers pick going to Memphis at 12, Washington 11, New York at 10. You want to see the Blazers here from the Pelicans. That would mean the Blazers' own pick moves up. And it does. Great news, Eric.
Yeah.
We finally had some tankathon luck. So Portland's own pick moves into the top 4. And they keep the Pelicans' pick. We would be ecstatic on the draft lottery stream.
Yep.
Yep. It would be the happiest moment on stream the entire season. And it would be after the season. So 8th, you got San Antonio. 7th, Sacramento. 6th, Indiana. And 5, you have Detroit moving down 4 spots. They're the worst team in the league right now, and they moved down. So you got Orlando, OKC, Houston, and Portland. They draw for the top 4 picks. At 4, you got Portland. At 3, you got OKC. At 2, you got Houston. And at 1, you got Orlando. So Portland would have the 4th and 9th picks here. Eric, would you package the 4th and 9th picks to move into the top 3?
I'm not convinced that, because I think Houston might take Ivy.
Really?
Yeah.
With Jalen Green?
I mean, Ivy could play point. I don't know. I think they might. I don't know. Maybe not in this scenario, but yeah.
Let's say.
I think maybe Bankero might fall to 4, and then you'd be fine. Like you wouldn't have to trade up, you know.
Let's say you know for sure that Chet, Jabari, and Bankero are going in the top 3. Would you trade the 4th and the 9th pick to get one of those guys?
As of right now, I think I'm only doing it if it's Jabari.
I would do it for any one of those guys. And I like Jaden Ivey and I like Johnny Davis, but given what we need on this team, we really, really, really need a Bankero, a Chet, or a Jabari Smith. So at this point, I think you kind of just say, okay, screw it, give up the 9th pick, maybe to a team like Houston. Here's the thing. Houston has Brooklyn's first-round pick. So Houston's here at 17, and if they had the 2nd pick, I would do like 4 and 9 for 2 and 17. And maybe that'd be good enough for Houston if they wanted, if they were okay taking a guard.
Yeah.
So OKC also has the Clippers' 15th overall pick, so maybe 4 and 9 for 3 and 15. You move down from 9 to 15, move up from 4 to 3, guarantee you get one of the top 3 power forwards in the draft. So there's some potential trade-up scenarios if Portland gets 4.
Yeah. Or you just take AJ Griffin and be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that dude's standing reach is going to be extremely short, Eric. I haven't seen anything on it, but look at that dude has the lowest shoulders I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Look at like his team picture. So I don't know. Like at that point, honestly, I would maybe just take Johnny Davis and play him at the 3. He's undersized, but I feel like AJ Griffin's going to be undersized too.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see the measurements with him, but
or maybe you trade back a few spots and
take whoever.
No, like trade back a few spots and pick up another asset to use a different trade, maybe.
Yeah, that's possible. I just think they need to cash in on like getting a top 3, like a power forward that's a future all-star. You know what I mean? Like one of those 3 guys. That's what we need. It would be interesting if we ended up 4th, Eric, given what we need. We don't really need a guard, and the top 3 is power forward. So I like that Tankathon gave us this scenario because it brings up a conversation we haven't really had before, which is, okay, you're 4th and 9th. Do you trade into the top 3 to guarantee yourself at one of those power forwards?
You could also take Ivy or Johnny Davis and play Hart at the 3 for temporarily. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. There's we'd have options
because this would be like to me, it might come back to a situation where the Zach Collins draft, right? Like, you just take Donovan Mitchell if he's the best player there, and you worry about what happens with that later, right? So to me, if we stayed at 4, I would always probably take the best player. I mean, obviously you want to factor in need if it's close, but I I would just hate if we passed up on one of those guards and they ended up like the Collins Mitchell situation or whatever, and we're like, why didn't we take one of those? We would have had a huge trade chip down the road, you know?
Yep, I agree. Anyway, that's the Tankathon sim. Let's move on to the Eastern Conference standings. This is what they currently look like. You got Miami. Cleveland's in second, only a game back of Miami, Eric. How beautiful is that? And then you got Chicago, Milwaukee, Philadelphia. Brooklyn's fallen to 8th, and they're only a game and a half out of 9th. They've lost 10 in a row.
Crazy.
The East is so entertaining this year. Anyway, let's look at the next 5 games. For the Blazers, you got 2 games until the All-Star break. Milwaukee and Memphis, both on the road. And then they come home, face Golden State, Denver, and Phoenix. So this is an insanely tough 5-game stretch. So if you want to tank, be prepared to lose. Be prepared to tank in the next 5 games.
Yeah, that's why I like winning this game tonight. Might not matter too much. So hopefully, hopefully it doesn't go our way. I know Chris Brandlin is really opposed to rooting for a team to lose, and that's not. I'm not like sitting there if they miss it, like Ant misses a 3. I'm not like, yes, woohoo, good job, Ant. Like that's not really how I look at it. I'm fine with it if we lose to the Bucks. Like I'm not gonna be like, oh, I wanted to win or like I normally would. Is the only difference I make. But we have a definite shot at going 0-5 here.
I mean, we want to lose so we can get the best possible prospect who could be a all-star or a superstar going forward. That's a good reason to like want your team to lose. It's so that they can win next year and win the year after and win the year after, right? This might be the last chance that we get with Dame to get him a potential all-star that's young without having to like trade all our assets, because that's essentially what we'd have to do to get one who's already established right now. So it's really like the thing that would unlock a potential championship in the future for Dame is if we like get a top 3 pick and one of these guys is just amazing.
And to be fair to Chris, he understands that, and he understands like what Brendan's saying. He can't see the big picture. No, he understands the big picture. He's just saying he's always going to cheer for his favorite team to win, and that's totally fine too.
Yep. Anyway, that's around the NBA. Anything else you want to say for this stream, Eric?
Well, thank you to everyone for watching, and like I said, that stream on Monday will give us a chance to kind of unravel exactly what happened behind the scenes for the Blazers this trade deadline. So if you're interested in that and finish like putting the conclusion to this trade deadline in place, check out Blazers Uprise live around 3:30, 3:45-ish on Monday afternoon.
Yep, agreed. Follow us on Twitter at ToryJonesYT, TOREY Jones YT for me, at Hoopsjock for Eric, at Blazers Uprise YT for the channel. And with that being said, that's a wrap for this post-game show. Thank you to everybody who donated. Thank you to everybody who watched. Thank you to everybody who called in. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend. We'll catch you on Monday with Blazers Uprise Live. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.